G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kaitlyn and I'm an American living in beautiful Sydney, Australia. I still cannot believe that I've been living in Australia for a year as of today. This is day 365 of me living in Australia. I can't wrap my head around it. It has been a wild, crazy year, you guys. I've grown so much, I've learned so much, and there's so much that I just want to share with you guys about this experience, about what it's like living here, moving all the way from America. So I asked you guys on my community page here on YouTube for a little Q&A, and like I had mentioned, this is going to be a charity video, and so many people had commented about this charity called the Royal Flying Doctors. So this video is actually going to be donated to two different charities. We're going to split it between Wires for Animal Welfare and the Royal Flying Doctors, which does an amazing service here in Australia. So let's jump right into this Q&A, and guys, grab a Becky, grab a cuppa, and let's get right into this video. The first question from Lachlan Jacob 1533. Have they been to Hawaii and is it worth going there as an Australian? Most people I've talked to say it's like the Gold Coast. Do you have any other recommendations for the US? I'm keen to try out Six Flags as well. So Lachlan, thanks for your question, and yes, Mark and I actually went to Hawaii on our honeymoon back in July. It was beautiful. We absolutely loved it there. We're hoping to go back again at some point. It's absolutely beautiful there, but I do know a lot of pretty well-traveled Australians who said that Hawaii does remind them a lot of Queensland, and if you're going to go to the States, there are plenty of other places to go and see. Personally, I think if you love beaches, if you love that tropical climate, it's worth going to Hawaii, especially because you get a really unique perspective of what it was like becoming the last state, really. There's so much controversy still surrounding Hawaii becoming the 50th state over in the US. So many Native Hawaiians that we talked to were really against it. They don't really like being Americans for the most part, and honestly, who can blame them? So if you want to learn a different perspective about what it's like living in different states, maybe go check out Hawaii. It's a beautiful place. You'll learn a lot about the Hawaiian traditions. It's very chill, very laid back. We absolutely loved it there and we would love to go back. But if you're not somebody who's really into the beachy type vacations, there are plenty more places in the US to go and see. If you love the mountains, Colorado's supposed to be absolutely amazing. Go see the Rocky Mountains. If you like hiking, go check out California. There are so many incredible hiking places there. There's so many states and so much variety to the US that you can really tailor any visit to what you want to see. If you want to see what you see in the media when it comes to these big Hollywood movies, go to LA and go to New York, go see Times Square, feel just the crazy hustle and bustle, because there is nothing like that over here in Australia. There's so much to the US to see and do, so it really depends on what you want to do, but I definitely do recommend Six Flags if you're into that. I did go to the Six Flags over in Jersey. It was a lot of fun. There's so many amusement parks in the US, you guys. If you get the chance, if you like amusement parks, Six Flags is definitely worth checking out. So this next question is from GB Sailing 9436. How have you found dealing with Australian men's health issues compared to dealing with the same for Americans? So first of all, let's get the obvious out of the way. I'm a woman, so I am just going from the perspective of somebody who's observing, not somebody who is experiencing firsthand, obviously. But on top of that, men's health issues, I don't know if this question was aimed more towards mental health or if this was aimed more towards physical health. And as far as physical health goes, Australia healthcare is so much better than American healthcare by far. It's so much cheaper, it's so much more affordable, it adds less stress to your life worrying about medical bills. Therefore, your mental health is at least slightly better because you're not worried about that stress from the medical bills. As far as mental health goes, both countries have fairly similar services in that there's psychiatric help, there's psychological help that you can go to, there are online places that you can go to in order to seek help. So as far as services offered, both countries are actually pretty comparable. But there is so much to men's health, so just because I'm not entirely sure which direction that question was aimed, that's kind of my response as far as physical health and mental health for men in America and in Australia. If I had to pick which one was better, just judging off of those two factors, I alone would say Australia, but that's also factoring in the American healthcare system and the insurance and whatnot. So there's a lot more that's going into that answer, but to be honest, that's kind of all I can say. The question's maybe just a little bit vague. From Susan Frango S4525, have your family or friends visited or planning, and do you think they will be surprised at your decision to move once they see and get a feel for the country? So I've already moved over here. I've been over here for a year and I don't have any plans to move back to the States. As far as friends and family, no, nobody has any plans to come and visit. Before I came over, of course, a lot of people with a little bit of an empty promise were like, oh great, now we have a place to crash when we come over and visit. We can't wait to come over and see you. And no one's made any plans whatsoever. But to be honest, I did kind of expect that. It's a little bit of a nicety and just a polite thing to say. In a lot of cases, oh, we can't wait to come see you. We can't wait to visit. And you know that they're more than likely not going to visit. As far as family, I've had no family visit me. I have no family planning on visiting. Mark and I will actually be going to go see my family in June to July next year, 2023, which we are very, very, very excited for. It's going to be an expensive trip, but we are still really, really excited. My parents still have not met my husband, as crazy as it is to say it. We've been together for over 3 years. I've lived in Australia for a year. And my parents still have not met my husband. So he's finally going to get to meet them in person in June next year. We're really looking forward to the trip. We're very excited, but no, nobody has any plans to come over here and visit. So from Oroke H72, what's been the hardest challenge in moving to Australia other than the visa process and of course missing family? So I'm glad that you put those two out there because those would be like my immediate responses. The hair in my mouth. But for me, it really comes down to 2 things. One is learning how to deal with the homesickness. And weirdly enough, I know this is going to sound kind of silly, but I've learned to channel it through food, if that makes any sense at all. There's so much food back home that I miss. And I also tie that to friends and family. I mean, I think of missing like Stocks cake from Philly, which if you're from Philly, you know what Stocks cake is. Let me know in the comments down below. But I think of that, and then I think of all the birthdays where we had Stocks cake, and I think of my family, and then I start missing them, and it really, really hits hard. So trying to focus my homesickness based around something like food, thinking about my friends and family, thinking about the good memories, and trying to find something here that sort of compensates. If I'm craving Stocks cake and I'm thinking about my friends and family and that sort of thing, maybe I'll go to the bakery and grab a cupcake. Once in a while, I really miss just the lazy Friday night takeouts, the easy, simple stuff that I used to do back home. And I'll tell Mark I'm feeling homesick and we might go get a cheesesteak or something over the weekend because there's a place here called Fat Frank's. I've mentioned them 1,000 times and we'll leave the link for them below because they're in Wetherill Park. If they ever close down, I will cry, you guys. But they make the most authentic, the best Philly cheesesteaks in all of Australia. Said it from a Philly girl, born and raised. They actually import their rolls from Philly. So yeah, that's about as authentic as you can get. If you really want it authentic, ask them to not put garlic aioli on it. That's not authentic. Everything else, spot on. Yeah, I've learned to deal with homesickness through like food and food cravings and whatnot, and trying to sort of find ways to compensate with food over here. Obviously, there's stuff at home that I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss friends and family. I said that already, but that's one of the ways that I sort of channel it a little bit more. It might not be the healthiest way, to be honest. I mean, you can't really have a cupcake every single day, but that is one of the odd ways that I've been compensating, obviously, besides calling them and doing video chats and whatnot. That's obviously a way to stay in touch, and I'm feeling homesick as well. But it's one of those more tangible things, and I have little things from home that I have around the house. I have a Philadelphia mug. I have a love statue necklace that my best friend gave me before I moved over here. I have a candle that says Philadelphia on it. I even have my little Eagles hat right here that I will wear sometimes. So if I'm feeling homesick, sometimes just having little things like this really, really does help. And the other thing for me that was a little bit of a struggle coming over here was learning the metric system, which I know sounds so simple and silly, and then you could sit there and point fingers and, oh my god, America's like the only big country that uses the imperial system. Like, yeah, you can go into talking about how awful America is because they use the imperial system and it's the only major country that uses it, even though there's like 2 others, but they're actually considered much, much smaller countries. For me, I didn't grow up using the metric system. I don't really know centimeters and millimeters. It took me a good like 2 or 3 weeks just to figure out what oven temperature I needed to put on in order to cook without having to Google it. And same thing with the weather. That probably took me about a month just to get used to, and then when it started to get cold, I had to figure out winter temperatures. So it does take a little while to adjust to these small things if you're an American coming over to Australia, or pretty much any other country that uses the metric system, which is like 99% of the countries out there. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. When it comes down to it, it's really finding a way to deal with homesickness and learning the metric system. So this next one from Waza6022, I'm sure you've heard Australians criticize America and Americans. Do you think what you've heard is fair and justified? So to be honest, you guys, I really think it comes down to what they're saying in these cases. I think if you're going to talk about the healthcare, about the poor student loan situation and whatnot, if you're going to talk about mass shootings and all, I think a lot of that actually is justified. It is something that a lot of Americans deal with, a lot of Americans are afraid of. I know so many people who've been affected by ridiculously high student loans, like myself. I know a lot of people who've gone into really, really bad medical debt. I knew somebody who had to go into bankruptcy for medical debt. And honestly, I am terrified for a lot of my friends, particularly my friends' kids, because you have no idea when there's going to be another mass shooting. You have no idea when there's going to be another school shooting, and that is terrifying. But I feel like when you're going to talk about the stereotypes, the big, fat, dumb, loud, obnoxious American, that is so untrue. I know so few Americans who fit that sort of stereotype. Most Americans I know are actually very intelligent, well-read, well-spoken, and obviously America's a huge country. You're talking about 380 million people. That's what, like 13, 14 times the size of Australia? So I think we're talking about Americans. No, I really don't think that a lot of it's justified. I feel like so much of it comes down to stereotypes, what Aussies see in the news, what they see in the media, what they see on social media, and that's not the way most Americans are. I think most Americans are very, very similar to Aussies in a lot of ways. But as far as America, like the country itself, yeah, I think a lot of that actually is justified. Even though it is a little bit heightened, there's so much more to America than just poor healthcare and mass shootings, but that seems to be what most Aussies talk about or want to talk about when they meet an American. So I feel like that is just overinflated, it's overdone. It's a little too much, to be honest. This next one is from Fiona Hem. Happy almost first Aussie anniversary. Thank you. What are your plans for the channel and your life in general for your second year here? I gave myself a little bit of leeway my first year here. It was living with my partner for the first time, moving to a new country, adjusting to things like the metric system and seasons changing, different holidays, new job, new career. There's so much that I really gave myself a lot of leeway this year and tried to be as kind to myself as much as I could, because I knew this was going to be a huge shock to my system, even though I did what I could to prepare, and my partner has been so patient and so kind and so helpful when it came to adjusting to moving over here. But I know going into this next year, I don't want to, and not that I don't want to be unkind to myself, but I want to be more intentional with what my goals are for next year. I did have a few goals going into this year. They were a little bit more vague though, to be honest. With this next year coming up, I am hoping to take a TAFE course. I want to be more intentional with my job, with my career. Even though I like what I'm doing so far, it's definitely a dead-end paper-pushing job. I want to be more intentional. I'm 31. This is the time to pivot and come up with a new career change. Figure out what I'd want to do, where I really want to go. I don't think I want to go into the legal field, but I definitely don't want to stay in the job that I'm at. I don't think I want to stay in the company that I'm at, even though, to be honest, it's actually a pretty great company. It's just very, very niche, and I want something that's going to expand on my skills, something that's going to be a little bit more useful. So I'm hoping to be more intentional with that going into next year. On top of that, I want to be more intentional with my health, which I know me just talking about cupcakes and all a few minutes ago and homesickness probably seems a little bit counterintuitive, but it's not a lot. I've gained 4 kilos since I came over here. It's not a lot, but this is also the heaviest that I've been since about 2016, and I do not want to be at this stage anymore. So some of my clothes are starting to feel a little bit too tight. I do not want to give in and go and have to buy an entire new wardrobe one size up. So I'm hoping to be a little bit more health conscious, hoping to lose a little bit of weight, and hoping to get a little bit more movement into my day-to-day life. Whether it's stretching or walking or yoga or lifting weights, I want to be able to move a little bit every day. which is actually very, very tough when you have like technically two jobs. Like I have my full-time office job, but then I also have YouTube, which is kind of like a part-time job, and I'm sitting in front of computer screens all day, and then when I'm done my full-time job, I'm sitting in front of computer screens to edit. So there's so much going on when it comes to handling both jobs, but I really want to be more intentional going into this next year, which is one of the reasons why I changed my channel name. I know for a year and a half almost, I was kind of Australian, and I feel like that title kind of served its purpose. I still like talking about Australian content and American content and reacting to it, but I feel like if I just keep calling myself kind of Australian, I'm going to be very, very limited later on to just Australian content. I want to be able to expand a little bit more, talk about some of the things that interest me, talk about some of the things that interest my viewers. If you guys have any non-American, non-Australian stuff that you want me to react to, pop over to my Discord. I have all that linked down below in the description and let me know. So close to being done and the camera battery just died on me. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be filming my 2023 vision board, talking about my 2022 vision board, what my plans are, what's changed, what to expect in this new year. But going into 2023, I'm trying to be much more intentional and much more focused, particularly career focused with what I want to do and where I want this channel to go. So between my office job and my YouTube job, let's see what 2023 will bring, but I'm trying to be much more focused going into this new year. So that's it for the questions that you guys asked me in this little Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. I really appreciate it, and it does really, really help support me and help support this channel. I can't believe it's been a year in Australia, so happy 1 year Aussie anniversary to me, and I will see you guys in my next video.